Imagine waking up tomorrow with no employees, no office, and almost no money to start a business. You have a laptop, an internet connection, and an AI assistant that can research, write, analyze, design, code, answer customers, and work while you sleep. A few years ago, that business would have sounded ridiculous. Today, it's becoming a real economic possibility. And that's the strange part about the AI boom. The biggest fortunes aren't only being created by people building giant AI models. They're also being created by people discovering something much smaller. AI can turn one person's time into the output of a much larger company. I'm Steve, and this is Wealth Maps, where we learn how money, business, psychology, and technology really work. So the question isn't simply whether AI will create millionaires. It already is. The more interesting question is, why? And the answer has less to do with artificial intelligence itself than with one economic resource that used to be incredibly expensive: labor. Imagine a small business owner named Daniel. Daniel isn't a programmer. He runs a tiny marketing agency outside Dallas. For years, his biggest problem wasn't finding customers. It was fulfilling the work after he found them. One client needed social media posts. Another needed competitor research. Someone else needed emails. Then came proposals, reports, revisions, spreadsheets, and all the administrative tasks that don't look difficult individually but consume an entire day when stacked together. Daniel could hire people. But hiring people meant salaries, taxes, benefits, training, management, and permanent expenses before the revenue was guaranteed. So Daniel had a ceiling. He could only sell as much work as his small team could produce. Then AI changed the equation. Not because AI magically made Daniel a genius, because it allowed him to multiply his existing ability. One person could draft multiple emails, research competitors, turn meeting notes into proposals, build spreadsheets, create first drafts of reports, and even write code for simple internal tools. Daniel still had to think. He still had to judge quality. He still had to talk to customers. But he didn't have to personally perform every repetitive step between an idea and a finished product. And that's where the money starts. Because businesses have always been built around a simple equation. Revenue comes in. Costs go out. Profit is what's left. For decades, one of the biggest costs was the number of people required to produce the revenue. AI can attack that cost. And when a business can produce more without increasing costs at the same rate, the economics begin to change. This isn't just a theory. In a 2026 Goldman Sachs survey of small businesses, 76% said they were already using AI. Among those businesses, 93% reported a positive impact, and 84% cited increased efficiency and productivity as a primary benefit. Yet only 14% said AI was fully integrated into their core operations. That gap matters. The technology is already producing results, but most businesses are still figuring out what to do with it. And whenever a powerful technology is underused, the early people who understand how to apply it can gain an advantage. Think about the internet. The opportunity wasn't simply knowing that the internet existed. Everyone knew. The opportunity was understanding what the internet made possible that wasn't possible before. AI creates a similar question. What becomes possible when intelligence itself becomes cheaper to access? AI doesn't eliminate every job, but it can reduce the human labor required for many individual tasks. And that creates a new kind of entrepreneur. Not necessarily the person with the most employees, The person who knows how to coordinate humans and machines most effectively. That is already visible at the top of the startup economy. Forbes reported that AI helped create more than 50 new billionaires in 2025, including founders connected to AI models, infrastructure, data services, coding tools, and applications. But the more interesting story isn't the billionaires. It's what happens below them. Because you don't need $1 billion valuation to benefit from AI. Suppose you run a consulting business. Before AI, you might serve 10 clients personally. Now imagine AI helps you automate research, organize notes, draft documents, prepare presentations, and handle routine communication. Maybe you don't suddenly serve 100 clients. Maybe you serve 15 without hiring another employee. Those extra 5 clients can represent something much more important. Operating leverage. If revenue grows faster than costs, each additional dollar of revenue can become increasingly valuable. That's why AI can be powerful for small businesses. It doesn't have to create a revolutionary product. Sometimes it only has to remove friction. And friction is everywhere. None of these tasks sounds like $1 million opportunity. That's precisely the point. Fortunes are often built by finding a small inefficiency that exists millions of times. But there's another reason AI is creating new wealth. It lowers the cost of experimentation. Imagine you have an idea for a software product. 10 years ago, you might have needed developers before you could even test whether customers wanted it. Today, AI coding tools can help people build prototypes, landing pages, automations, and early products much faster. That doesn't mean anyone can type one sentence and create $1 billion company. AI can make bad ideas faster too. The advantage comes from iteration. Test an idea. Get feedback. Change it. Test again. The cost of each experiment can be lower. And that changes who gets to participate. A teenager with a laptop can build something that previously required a small technical team. A freelancer can compete with an agency on certain types of work. A small company can behave like a larger company in selected areas. But here's the trap. AI doesn't automatically create wealth. AI creates leverage. And leverage amplifies whatever is underneath it. If you have a valuable skill, AI can help you deliver it faster. If you understand a market, AI can help you research it faster. If you know how to sell, AI can help you reach more customers. But if you have no useful skill, no customer problem, and no distribution, AI simply lets you produce more useless things. That's why the next generation of AI millionaires may not look like traditional tech founders. They may be accountants who automate financial services, real estate operators who analyze deals faster, consultants who turn expertise into software, creators who build tiny media businesses, or employees who discover that one person can now operate a business that previously required 5 or 10. The technology is only half of the equation. The other half is ownership. That's the part most people miss. If AI makes you twice as productive at your job, your employer may capture most of the economic benefit. Your output rises. The company's revenue rises. But your ownership doesn't necessarily change. If you use that same leverage to build something you own, the economics are different. You're no longer only selling hours. You're building an asset. A customer list. A software product. A media brand. A recurring revenue business. A system. Something that can potentially produce value without requiring every dollar to be exchanged directly for another hour of your life. And that brings us to the real reason AI could create so many new millionaires. It's not simply that machines are becoming intelligent. It's that the minimum amount of capital and labor required to build certain businesses is falling. We've already seen the direction. Forbes reported that more than 117,000 U.S. non-employer businesses and partnerships generated at least $1 million in annual revenue in 2023. AI is now adding another layer of leverage to that existing one-person business trend. And some AI-native companies are pushing the idea much further. Lovable, an AI coding company, reached more than $100 million in annualized subscription revenue within 8 months of launching its AI product, according to Forbes. Cursor, another AI coding company, passed a $1 billion annualized revenue run rate and reached a multi-billion-dollar valuation. These are extreme examples. You shouldn't watch this and think, "I'll start an AI company tomorrow and become a billionaire." That's the wrong lesson. The lesson is smaller and much more useful. When technology dramatically lowers the cost of doing something, the opportunity often isn't in doing exactly what everyone else is doing with the new technology. It's in asking, what was previously too expensive, too slow, or too complicated to do? That's where new markets appear. That's where small businesses become scalable. And that's where individuals can suddenly compete with organizations much larger than themselves. The Industrial Revolution made physical labor cheaper. The Internet made information and distribution cheaper. AI is making certain forms of cognitive labor cheaper. And whenever a major resource becomes cheaper, wealth tends to move toward the people who know how to reorganize around it. So don't ask only, "How do I use AI?" Ask something much more valuable. What expensive task, bottleneck, or business process can I now perform dramatically cheaper? Because the next millionaire created by AI may not invent artificial intelligence at all. They may simply notice that everyone else is still doing something the expensive way, and then build a business around doing it differently. The biggest AI opportunity might not belong to the person who builds the smartest machine. It might belong to the person who sees the most expensive problem and realizes the machine has just made the solution cheap enough to sell. And that is the real lesson of every technological wealth boom. The fortune doesn't always go to the person who discovers the technology. It goes to the person who discovers what the technology makes possible. So here's the question. If AI suddenly gave you the equivalent of 5 extra employees tomorrow, what would you build with them? Because your answer might tell you more about your future wealth than the AI tool you choose.